At first glance, it looked like just another driving lesson. A red Ford Fiesta idled quietly outside a sleepy farm unit in rural Hertfordshire. Inside, the dashboard camera blinked silently, recording every frame without a soul paying attention. The man unloading boxes didn't notice. The reversing car didn't notice. And the instructor, the one who'd parked it there, certainly didn't think twice. The camera kept rolling, untouched, unnoticed. Days passed. Then, everything changed. Because when investigators finally reviewed that forgotten footage, what they uncovered shattered the quiet illusion of one man's life. This is the story of Robert Brooks, a seemingly average driving instructor, no criminal history, no trouble with the law. But his own dashcam would reveal a hidden empire, a criminal operation buried beneath layers of ordinary. He wasn't just teaching people how to drive, he was quietly steering one of the UK's most covert drug syndicates. Brooks didn't scream for attention. There were no Lamborghinis, no gold chains, no lavish parties. In the quaint town of Hertford, he was just Rob, a dependable family man with a side hustle renting out camper vans under the cozy name Happy Day Campers. On Facebook, he posted sunny snapshots from Spain, beach strolls in Dubai, and the occasional pint in an American bar. It all looked so normal. But behind those carefully chosen images was a truth he never posted. His business barely had bookings. No real income, no client history, yet Robert lived well. Too well. Frequent flights, generous spending, and a lifestyle that didn't match the spreadsheets. To investigators at ERSOU, the Eastern Region Special Operations Unit, it raised an eyebrow. But suspicion alone wasn't enough. Robert didn't slip up. He blended in. That was his weapon. While other traffickers flaunted their power, Brooks did the opposite. He played small. Invisible. He never touched the drugs. Never showed up to shipments. Never boasted online. But when detectives followed the money trail, matched timestamps, and monitored drop sites, a chilling pattern emerged. Because behind encrypted phones and under the codename, Jaguar Palace, the criminal mastermind wasn't hiding in some distant villa, he was right here, calmly giving driving lessons in the English countryside. Behind his ordinary smile was an extraordinary operation. And just like any well-run syndicate, he wasn't alone. There was a team. Trusted contacts. Silent movers. All waiting for the next delivery, the next payout, and the next fatal mistake. And that dashcam? It captured more than just a three-point turn. It captured the truth. And the truth would destroy everything he had so carefully built. This is where the clean mask begins to slip, and the hidden machinery underneath is exposed. Every empire has its structure. Every criminal network needs a chain of command. And Robert Brooks, ever the strategist, had built his like a quiet corporate empire. He stayed at the top, distant, hands-off, always calm. But beneath him was a carefully selected team of operatives. Loyal. Sharp. Silent. For men. For vital cogs in a silent machine designed to move millions in Class A drugs, and vanish without a trace. First, there was Richard Campbell, 49, from Milton Keynes. To outsiders, he was just another man in a warehouse. But to the network, he was Brooks' right hand. He didn't just show up, he ran the operation from the ground. The warehouse was his kingdom. He received shipments, tracked every load, and kept the drugs safe. He didn't talk. He didn't brag. But he carried a £15,000 encrypted phone, the kind only serious players even know how to use. Next came Tom Ashwack, just 28. Young, strong, and deadly efficient. His hands ran the forklifts. His eyes watched every box. And he knew exactly what was hidden under the false bottoms and fake labels. He wasn't a boss, but he wasn't blind. His job was speed and silence. Get the goods off the lorries. Get them stored. No mistakes. Then there was Stephen Kapp, a ghost on wheels. 56 years old, former lorry driver from Hull. No police record, no ego, no flash. But he was trusted, because he made at least 18 confirmed trips across the country, hauling blocks of heroin and cocaine from the Hertfordshire farm to secret drop points up north. He didn't ask questions. He just drove. And finally, the man who moved the world without ever setting foot in it, Peter Manison, the supplier. Operating out of Amsterdam, he kept the pipeline flowing. He packed poison inside harmless-looking shipments, spider catchers, Jack Daniels boxes, and low-value cargo. A mastermind in plain clothes. We'll come back to him. Each of these men played their part. Each made the network quieter, harder to trace, more dangerous. What they built wasn't just a drug ring, it was a logistics empire. It was clean. Cold. Professional. And for nearly a year, it ran like clockwork. Until one day, it didn't. Little Samuel's farm, just another patch of barns tucked into the Hertfordshire countryside. Locals barely noticed it. But one barn, quietly rented by happy day campers, wasn't storing camper vans. It was ground zero for one of Britain's most organized drug operations. From November 2018 to August 2019, 39 lorry shipments rolled in from Holland. That's nearly one truck a week, sometimes two. They came quietly, always at odd hours. Forklifts moved fast. Workers didn't loiter. And under the mundane packaging were bricks of heroin and cocaine, millions in narcotics disguised as nothing. Inside that barn, Tom Ashwack operated the forklift like a machine. Richard Campbell took inventory, organized the stock, and cleared the lanes. Stephen Kapp waited outside, ready for his next northbound run. There were no fingerprints. No noise. No mess. Police later said it looked like a legal distribution center. Everything but the product was by the book. But there was a problem. On paper, Happy Day Campers was struggling. Barely any bookings. No income to justify the space, the traffic, or the movement. Yet the real business, the one no one saw, was thriving in shadows. Then came August 2019. The final shipment didn't go according to plan. A cheap plastic box split at the seam. And inside, hidden under cardboard and filler, was a tightly packed block of white powder. That mistake didn't bring arrests, not yet. Instead, investigators watched. Tracked. And waited. Because they didn't just want one man, they wanted them all. And now, the trap was closing. August 20th, 2019. The day everything began to unravel. At the Channel Tunnel, a lorry rolled in from Holland. On the surface, it was nothing unusual, just another cargo truck crossing into the UK. The driver, calm and unbothered, claimed he hadn't witnessed the loading process. His paperwork? Perfectly in order. But hidden deep inside one of the pallets, nestled under neatly stacked boxes labeled spider catchers, Border Force officers discovered something else entirely: 45 kilograms of heroin. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a random interception. It was the thread that, once pulled, began to unravel one of Britain's most calculated drug enterprises. The paperwork traced the shipment to a quiet patch of land, Little Samuel's farm in Hunston, Hertfordshire. The address was linked to an innocuous business called Happy Day Campers. A camper van rental company on paper, but to investigators, it now looked like something else entirely. Digging into the shipping records, officers found a disturbing pattern: 39 prior deliveries. Same dimensions. Same origin. Same destination. 2 shipments a week, regular, rhythmic, and carefully timed. If each load had carried similar quantities of drugs, they weren't dealing with a local crew anymore. This was a fully fledged international trafficking operation. But there was a catch: they didn't know who was picking up the drugs. The entire setup was surgical. Isolated. Clean. No fingerprints tying Robert Brooks to the unit. No surveillance inside. Just layers of misdirection. So the police made a decision: let the shipment go. And watch. Covert surveillance teams repacked the drugs. They planted microphones and hidden cameras inside the consignment, carefully tucked among the fake goods. Then, they tracked the delivery van as it made its way toward the farm, every mile bringing them closer to the truth. At Huntston, officers kept their distance. The farm had several outbuildings, and no one yet knew which unit would take the load. But then, the van reversed into a very specific barn, the one rented by Happy Day campers. And now, they had their eyes on the heartbeat of the operation. Inside, they saw Richard Campbell and Thomas and Jack unloading boxes with practiced efficiency. Nearby, a Mini Cooper waited, likely for dispatch. Campbell was recorded on audio casually confirming what police already suspected: the boxes will contain Brown. That moment, just a few whispered words and the click of boxes shifting, gave investigators what they needed. But when the audio feed suddenly went silent, they acted. Police moved in. 2 men were arrested on the spot. A single encrypted phone was seized from the scene. And inside that phone, a detail that would break open everything. Jaguar Palace. That was the name. It didn't look like much at first, just another code word in a sea of encrypted messages. But to detectives, it was a doorway. They were finally inside the communication loop. And the messages they found were damning. Still, it wasn't enough. Encrypted texts and vague usernames wouldn't hold up in court. They needed something undeniable. Something visual. Something that put Robert Brooks physically inside the operation. And then, fate handed it to them. Parked quietly in the barn, half forgotten and coated in dust, was a red Ford Fiesta. It looked harmless, just another vehicle for a driving instructor. Which, of course, it was. Robert Brooks's personal car. Mounted above the windscreen, a small, barely noticeable dashcam. Motion triggered. Installed by Brooks himself, the same kind used to monitor new drivers during lessons. Only, he'd forgotten to disable it. When officers retrieved the footage, they expected to find routine traffic shots. Instead, they found hours of silence. An empty barn. Shifting light. Dust swirling in the air. But then, something else. On August 14th and 15th, just days before the raid, the barn was no longer empty. The dashcam had captured it all: the shutter doors sliding open, an Audi reversing into the unit, boxes being unloaded in a familiar, precise rhythm. And in the center of it all, standing calmly, without a trace of panic or disguise, Robert Brooks. The ghost finally had a face. Robert Brooks. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't lurking in the shadows or ducking behind the scenes. He was right there, calm, confident, and in control. The dashcam hadn't just caught Brooks. It had captured something more, someone police hadn't even known to look for. Stephen Kapp. A name that, until that moment, meant nothing to investigators. But now, his face, his car, and his role, were all locked in crystal clear HD footage. Kapp could be seen reversing an Audi into the barn, calmly unloading boxes. Just another day at the office for a man operating inside one of the UK's most elusive drug pipelines. Brooks stood nearby, silent and still. Not directing, not lifting, but observing, a man who wasn't surprised. A man who belonged. A senior officer would later describe the dash cam footage as 5 minutes of gold. They'd chased Brooks through burner phones, encrypted messages, and front companies. But in the end, he caught himself, by simply forgetting to switch off his own surveillance gear. With that single recording, the investigation turned on its axis. No longer just messages and metadata. Now they had faces. Movements. Real-time proof. Brooks wasn't just a name behind the curtain anymore. He was physically at the scene, overseeing the operation that had, until now, stayed buried beneath layers of clean paperwork and rented units. And then, Stephen Kapp became the next piece of the puzzle. Before the footage surfaced, Kapp didn't exist in any file. There were no records tying him to Little Samuel's farm. No intercepted calls. No traces in the EncroChat data. Not even a whisper of his name on the wire. But now, police had him. Captured on August 14th or 15th, during a drop they hadn't seen live. But the dash cam had. And Kapp, unknowingly, gave them exactly what they needed, a courier caught in the act. From there, officers began quietly tracking him. Who was this man? Where did he go when he wasn't running boxes? The answer was unexpected. Stephen Kapp lived a modest life in Hull, in a static caravan with his partner. A man in his mid-50s, formerly a lorry driver. No flashy cars. No luxury homes. Just a quiet, unremarkable existence. But behind the wheel, he was moving Class A drugs across the country. Now, police had a goal: catch him red-handed. And they did. December 19, 2019, the M25, a gray winter morning. Kapp was headed south. He had no idea he was being followed. Suddenly, in a coordinated move, officers initiated a hard stop, smashing through his car windows and dragging him out in seconds. At first glance, the car looked normal. But then came the reveal: a concealed compartment in the rear. Inside, 5 kilograms of tightly packed cocaine, ready for delivery. Kapp was stunned. He sat in silence, repeating the same words over and over, as if trying to process that the game was over. And it was. Until that moment, Kapp had been just a face in a video. Now, he was caught in the act, with the drugs in his vehicle and nowhere to run. The chain was complete. From supplier, to storage, to courier, and controller, every key player was now on police radar, with evidence that could hold up in court. Only one target remained. The man who'd orchestrated it all from behind the wheel of a humble red Ford Fiesta. The quiet driving instructor from Hertfordshire. The man known in encrypted chats only as Jaguar Palace. For weeks, Robert Brooks watched the chaos from a distance. He wasn't arrested when police raided the farm. He wasn't named in the first wave of headlines. While his crew, Campbell, Vosenjak, and Kapp, were being taken down one by one, Brooks kept a low profile. But what he didn't realize was that the noose was already tightening. The dashcam footage from his own vehicle had sealed his fate. Investigators had him on camera, calmly supervising a drug delivery. His every move was now under surveillance, not just at the farm, but in golf clubs, phone shops, and supermarkets. He wasn't working. He wasn't teaching driving lessons. But he was spending everything in cash. He must have known he was being watched. But instead of running, Brooks did something unexpected. He walked into a police station. No lawyer. No appointment. Just a pre-written statement in hand. In it, he claimed the farm unit was merely for vehicle storage. He denied knowing Stephen Kapp, insisted Campbell was just a casual acquaintance, and flatly rejected any involvement in the conspiracy. Detectives listened. Then they let him walk back out the door. Because behind the scenes, their case was still being built, brick by brick. Phone data showed his personal mobile traveled in tandem with his encrypted phone, proving he was indeed the elusive Jaguar Palace. His bank records, travel logs, and digital fingerprints tied him directly to shipments, meetings, and laundered money. This quiet man, the one whose only visible income came from a failing driving school, had flown back and forth to Spain while tons of heroin and cocaine were quietly moving into the UK. Eventually, it was time. In a dawn raid, officers arrived at Brooks's home. He didn't resist. He gave his wife a kiss goodbye as he was led out in cuffs. Hanging in the hallway was a decorative sign that read, This house runs on love and laughter. But inside, he'd been running a criminal empire. For nearly a year, Robert Brooks orchestrated 39 drug shipments from the Netherlands, charging between £15,000 and £20,000 per load. And with each successful run, the group grew bolder, until that one slip, that one camera, exposed everything. The operation was finished, and the man who once drove quietly around Hertfordshire was now at the centre of one of the UK's largest hidden trafficking rings. In September 2020, the case reached its final chapter at St Albans Crown Court. Robert Brooks, now 51, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to fraudulently evade the prohibition on the importation of Class A drugs and to possession of criminal property. But his role wasn't just that of a middleman. The court heard how he operated like a CEO, coordinating international shipments with military precision. He was sentenced to 21 years in prison. The judge called the conspiracy truly massive, describing it as immoral and destructive, not just to users, but to their families and communities. His team didn't escape justice either. Richard Campbell, 49, the trusted right-hand man, received 13 years and 6 months for conspiracy to evade importation restrictions. Thomas Vosenjak, 28, the forklift driver caught on surveillance at the farm, was sentenced to 6 years and 3 months. Stephen Capp, 56, the courier caught red-handed on the M25, got 9 years and 6 months. Without the dash cam footage, police admitted, Capp might never have been identified. And Peter Manison, the Dutch supplier, was arrested in Amsterdam and sentenced to 6 years by Dutch courts. His downfall followed the seizure of 70 kilos of cocaine headed straight for the farm. In total, the network had trafficked more than 1.8 tons of heroin and cocaine, with a street value of up to £58 million. The farm is silent now. The deals are gone. But the convictions remain, a chilling reminder of how even the most ordinary lives can hide the most dangerous secrets. What's your take on the case? Did the sentences match the scale of the crime? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more real crime documentary YouTube channel like this one, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned.